I think we're good. Okay, hopefully this is streaming. I've still got a little bit of a bar, so I'm just going to make sure it goes. But I think we're on. So if you're watching us, say hey, say what's up, say hey to Mia, who is the bravest free mama around, to be doing this interview, which is absolutely amazing. I am going to give her a brief intro here in 2 seconds, as soon as I make sure that you guys can actually see us. So I'm getting a thing that there is a live video on my page, so I'm going to assume that it's us and nobody hacked my account. So we are going to keep chatting. So hello, my name is Lauren Golden. I am the founder of the Free Mama and the Free Mama Movement, and I am beyond excited to be doing an interview that is probably a couple months overdue, but you know, the timing is even more sweet now because I have had the privilege of meeting this beautiful human being in real life, which I wouldn't have been able to say a couple months ago. So everybody, this is Mia. We are going to learn a lot more about her in just a second. But Mia is like the original Free Mama. She was one of the first people to buy the Free Mama movement all the way back in December. And she will tell you about her journey. It was not straight and narrow at all times, but she is living the dream, so to speak. So I'm just going to hand it over to you. So Mia, give a little introduction, and then we're going to go straight to questions.
Okay. So my name is Mia. I am originally from the great state of Texas, but I currently live in sunny San Diego. My husband is active duty, so we're stationed here. I have a almost 2-year-old son who is like the light of my life. He's all boy, like total rough and tumble, but awesome. And I am officially a free mama. I was working a 9-to-5 job, and as of April, I quit to become a full-time freelancer.
That is amazing. So we're going to go way back in time first. We want to talk about what life looks like now because that's like awesome. But we're going to go way back before that. So tell me what your life looked like back in December. Like you're scrolling through Facebook, you see this like crazy blonde lady and you're like, what is this? Like, tell me like, where were you, Mia, in life before you found the Free Mama?
So in December, Gabriel was about to go on my husband, Gabriel, was about to go on his second deployment. And he had deployed the last January to May. And then he was about to leave again in January. And I knew that deployment was not easy. That last deployment had been very rough. And I knew we're about to enter another rough season. I had been involved in 2 MLMs, which I believe in both of those companies. I still use the product, but I had been busting, like when I say busting my butt to try to grow that business, to try to grow a team. And I, in December, was feeling extremely discouraged because my team wasn't growing. I was making a little bit of revenue, but it wasn't enough to where I could be like, oh my gosh, I'm going to quit my 9-to-5. But that was the goal, right? Like that's why that's why we side hustle, because, you know, we want these to become, you know, we want financial freedom for our family. So whether it's paying off debt or, you know, quitting that job. So I was feeling extremely discouraged. And then, yes, I'm scrolling on Facebook and your ad pops up and I'm like, okay, this lady's really pretty. Is she real? Like, I totally did not believe, like, looking at your ad, I didn't think that I was going to have the relationship I have with you today. Like, it's just crazy to think about that. So I clicked it and you had this live webinar and you said, I'm not going to sell you like something about an MLM. And so that piqued my interest. I'm like, okay, this isn't something where, you know, I'm going to have to join someone's team. And so I remember we're on the way to the chiropractor. I made my husband listen because you said these words that literally resonated in my soul. You said, with the problem with MLMs is that you have to sell a dream, not a product. And I was like, oh my gosh, like that's why I haven't been able to grow, because I'm not making the money that I want to make. So I'm not able to be like, oh yeah, you can quit your job, because I haven't been able to do that yet. So it was like literally hit me in my chest. And I was like, told my husband, did you hear that? Like, did you hear that? And he was like, yeah, like he's a guy. He was obviously not. And so I remember like, I had to like miss a little bit of the webinar because we went to the chiropractor, but we got in the car and I was like finishing listening to it. And so I literally struggled. I want to say for like a day or two. I'm an impatient person, so it's not like I sat on the chairs. But I struggled with like, oh my God, I've invested so much money already. Like, what if this isn't a good investment? Like, what if I can't do it? Like, I've never heard of freelancing before. Like, who am I to say that I can do this? And I emailed you this long email. I know plenty of people do this, but I was like, here's my situation. Like, I only need XYZ to quit. Do you think that's possible? And before you even responded, I was like, I'm going to do it. And so I bought the program. And then you emailed me back. You're like, well, I see you bought the program. How exciting. But yes, I think you can achieve what you need to achieve. So that's where I was in December and kind of how I jumped on board.
So how did you feel like when you first got started? Like when you first started the modules, like, were you like ramped up, ready to go? Were you a little like, is this actually going to work? Like, where was your mind?
I was definitely ramped up, ready to go. I remember buying a new notebook. I remember like just being so on board. I remember, I think it was in module 2 that I told my husband, like, I really think like this is legit. Like, I think this is going to go somewhere. We ended up going out because my MacBook was from college. So it was like literally like so slow. It took forever to load anything. And so I was like, I want to invest in a new computer. And my husband, he's the most frugal person. And he like looked at me and just like this dead seriousness in his eyes. He's like, okay, like I'm behind you. Like I believe in you. Let's go get a new computer. So we had saved some money up for something else and we ended up using that money for a new computer. But I remember like being like, I am so committed to this. And because I invested the money in the program and in the computer, I think that's kind of been like in the back of my mind this whole time. Like, I have to make this work. Like I invested so much into this.
Yeah, it lights a fire. I can totally relate to that. So your husband has been supportive, and he was there for those decisions. And then what happened?
So then he left. And I've shared this and I feel like I'm being redundant, but I like to kind of say this because when people are saying like, I'm so busy, like I get it. Like, oh my gosh, I get it. I would leave my house at 6:30 a.m. to go take my son to daycare because we're military and the military helped us. He's not in daycare anymore. Helped us. We had very few options for daycare. And so one of them was, it's only 30 minutes away, but with traffic every morning, it was an hour each way. So I would commute an hour each way. I would work from 7:30 to 5:30. I'd immediately
From where?
From my home. Isn't that crazy? Like I was commuting to go take my son and then coming back home to work. Oh, one of the most frustrating things. I'd come home, work 7:30 to 5:30, and then I'd leave at 5:30. By the time we got home, dinner fed, put him in bed. It was like 7, maybe 7:30 sometimes, and I was dead tired. My job consisted of talking on the phone to people, so I was on the phone for 10 hours straight a day. And when I say talking to people, like I was selling, I was literally nonstop talking for 10 hours a day. It was inbound call center. And so I was beep in my ear constantly. And so I was bone tired. And again, I really, in the end, like I knew I wanted to leave my job. I knew that I wanted to just be financially just free. And so I think that was what was pushing me. I was talking to one of the girls. I told her like, my thing is Netflix. Like I love putting on Netflix and like turning my brain off, like glass of wine, don't talk to me, like don't interact with me. Like, and I couldn't do that. I had to sit down and do my VA programs. I had to work on my business and like, I had to go. And sometimes till midnight, 1:00 in the morning, I was going and it was.
But I want to cut you off because you could have still done Netflix. You could have.
Yeah.
You chose not to. Something I always saw in you, Mia, was that you understood that they were short-term sacrifices for a long-term game. And I don't think you realized that it probably didn't feel easy for you, but you made that look easy. You made that level of commitment look easy. Wow. And so I really commend you for staying so committed because your days were long. And then something else that you told me was, what was another reason that you always stayed up so late besides the program?
To talk to my husband.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was another thing. And that was frustrating for both of us sometimes too, because I'm like, oh babe, like I'm in the zone. I'm creating my website. And so like he'd be like, okay, I love you. Like but again, like you said, we both recognize. I even had family members reach out to me and be like, "You're taking on too much. Like, you need to slow down." And I remember specifically telling them, like, it's only going to be a matter of time before I quit my job, and I'm only focusing on this. So, like, I get that it's a lot now, but like you said, like, this is short term. Like, this is so uncomfortable, but it's okay because it's not forever. If I had thought forever, I would have given up.
No. So at what point do you feel like in terms of weeks or just like in your timeline, like at what point, and by the way, you've got a lot of people saying hey to you. And there's other comments that they've gone too low. At what point do you feel like you had kind of like you knew the goal was to quit your job? At what point do you think that felt like a reality? Like, oh yeah, I'm going to quit my job.
When I got my first client.
Okay, so tell us about that.
Okay, so I was at a point, I was kind of at a standstill in the program. I think I was maybe 2 weeks behind. And just like everyone else, like ladies who are watching this, like, I feel you, I've been there. Like, you get stuck and you're like, oh, like, I don't know if I can do it. And so you just kind of keep pushing it and pushing it. So I was at that point, and I remember we did a group call, and you're like, Mia, you can do this. Like, you just need to get your first client. I was like, you're right. So you actually helped me make the introduction to my first client, but it really was getting my first client really was the kick in the pants I needed to be like, okay, this is for real. This is happening. I had my interview, or not my interview, but like I interviewed my first client. And definitely, because my ideal client is a female entrepreneur. And so I actually had someone else reach out to me, and they were a guy, and I was like, I'm sorry, I work with specifically females. So there was an opportunity there. But my first client was with Myra, and we talked and we signed a contract. And then within a week, I got my second client. And then that was when I was like, okay, I'm making exactly, like, literally, and I know everyone's situation is not going to be like this. Mine just worked out very well. But within a week, I was like, okay, like, I'm making exactly what I emailed you that I needed to make. I'm going to be able to quit. I emailed my husband. I was like, I just signed my first contract. And what's crazy is my husband was deployed, and one of his friends had told him, bro, these things are so hit or miss. Like, who knows? Like, sometimes people make it, sometimes people don't. Like, you need to just be prepared that she may not, get clients. And so when I signed my second contract, they were in Vietnam, and he's like, bro, she just signed her second. So it was so funny. He was so excited for me. But that was when we both realized, like, okay, like, me quitting is an option.
And so what do you think also maybe happened between, and obviously I know your story from getting to work with you as a coach, but what else do you think happened between kind of that first and second client? Like, what do you think you've gained from that second client that you got?
From my second client?
Yeah.
Confidence. Like, I just feel, I can't begin to tell you how equipped I feel. Like, I feel so, before I was like, yes, I know these programs. And I remember with my second client, she asked me a couple of the programs that you actually went over, but I was like, Lauren, I've never worked with these. And you're like, Mia, like, I've taught you everything you need to know. Like, go back and watch these videos. And I did. And I remember just telling her, she said, have you worked with these before? And I said, I haven't worked with these, but I have learned about the program. I've dabbled in them, and because I had, set up whatever. And so I told her, I was like, I'm confident that I can help you with your goals, like help you achieve your goals.
Yep.
And I was so unsure saying that. But now if someone were to come up to me and say, hey, I need help with this program, oh, absolutely, I can do it. Because you know what? There's your programs, there's your resources, there's Google, there's YouTube, there's whatever programs help center. So I am so beyond confident that whatever program, if I don't know it, I can figure it out. I'm so confident in that.
That is so amazing. That's amazing. So talk to me about quitting your job.
So for years, my husband and I, because the company I worked for it's an awesome company, and my husband and I had actually met there in the new employee orientation. And so this company had been really good to us as far as me traveling out of state. Like, I moved to Virginia and then California. And so the company had worked with me. Like, I'd been with this company for almost 5 years. And the company had this annual bonus, which was like a really good bonus. And so we kept saying, well, after next year's bonus, after next year's bonus. And it was always after next year's bonus. So even after this past year's bonus, Gabriel was like, well, if you can make it 1 more year, and then after next year's bonus. But the job I was in was actually a job that I had not chosen. My prior position had closed. And so I was face-to-face in that position. I love that because I'm a people person. So when I transitioned to this job, I was working from home in this corner, and it looks pretty now, but before it wasn't like that when I was working when I was doing that other job. And so I just felt so alone. I was working 10 hours a day talking to people, but it was talking about things I didn't want to talk about. My husband wasn't here. The only interaction I had was with my 2-year-old, and even that was short. So I was just in a really low place. I was very depressed. I fell into a very, very bad depression, which I was scared would happen before Gabriel left. And so when I got my 2 clients, I told Gabriel, I want to quit. Like, I can't make it to next year's bonus. Like, this job is not worth my happiness, my sanity. And I'm making, before we started the program, I'm making the amount that we said. And my husband, being the frugal person that he is, was like, and then, after lots of conversations, he's like, you're right. He's like, you can quit. So it was kind of like a now or never thing. Like, I was like, either I'm going to have the guts to do this now, or I'm never going to do it. And so I sent in my 2 weeks notice, and I was just like, I'm done. Thank you for all you've done for me, but my chapter here has come to an end.
And how did that feel?
Oh my God, liberating. Like, literally there was a weight on my chest, and it was like,
Oh, okay. I know Carlin's watching, or at least she was. Carlin just quit her job too, like a week or 2 ago. And I was talking to Carlin a lot leading up to her quitting her job. And I said, you are going to physically feel a sense of release. And she was like, I feel it. And it is, when something is weighing on, there's a reason that's an expression. You physically feel something weighing on you. That is amazing. So you did all this while your husband was gone.
Yes.
Okay. So you quit your job, and then what did life look like after that?
I quit my job. I didn't give my daycare enough notice. So I was like, I don't know how this works. And they're like, yeah, you have to give us 2 weeks too. And I was like, okay. So I actually had 2 weeks worth of daycare for my son. And that actually ended up working out well because it just gave me time to adjust. I was able to kind of sit down. And I remember that was one of the first things I did. I remember dropping him off, and I went to Starbucks, and I plugged my headphones in, and I sat down, and I was like, okay, what are my goals? I use Laura Casey's Power Sheets. I highly recommend them. But I remember sitting down and breaking down, like, okay, now that I'm working at home, what do my goals look like? Like, what do I want to achieve? What do I want my days to look like? I quit because I want to have more time with my son. So what are my interactions with my son going to look like? And so I, set up like a story time and crafts time, which, yes, it hasn't been perfect, but if I have kind of like an outline of what I want, I'm a schedule person. So that works for me.
We share that in common.
So I just remember kind of just sitting down and setting down those expectations for me. And then we decided, because I was quitting, my husband gets like 2 weeks off after deployment. So we last minute booked a trip to Texas that we were not going to take because I didn't have the PTO for it. So we're able to go to Texas. It was a working vacation, which was like so cool. I'd be like, okay, I'm going to go work for a little bit. And I'd go to my, his room, or at his parents' house, his room, or my parents' living room. And I'd just be like working, like in the middle of being with my family, which was the coolest experience ever. And then now we're settling into that routine again. So
that's awesome. And so what do you feel like has been like the biggest change from working a 9 to 5 versus working for yourself at home? Good or bad? Because we can be honest, like, it's not all like rainbows and butterflies working from home with kids either. Like, that's just not life. But so let's maybe break it up. What has been like the most surprising thing? And then what has been like the best thing? Or if your most surprising thing is the best thing, what's been the biggest struggle?
So then the most surprising thing was like just feeling, I don't know, like when I get my work done, I'm like, there's nothing, like I'm okay. I can go to lunch in the middle of the day. Like I can go to the zoo. Like it's just weird to me. Like I was talking to Jordan last night and she's like, she had one of those moments too. It's like, I'm doing this. This is real. So that's been like, those moments just hit you all of a sudden. You're like, oh, I'm good to do this. Like I don't have to tell anyone that I'm doing this. I don't have to tell anyone I'm going to the store. So that's been the most surprising thing. The best thing has been, I mentioned this in the private coaching call. I love every day of the week. Like that's been the best thing. I would dread Sundays. And when I say I would dread Sundays, like I don't think anyone knows like how much I would dread Sundays. Like, oh, I hated Sundays. But now I don't because it's
Why
like,
did you hate Sundays?
because it meant Monday was coming. Like it meant my week of nightmare was coming. Like, oh, and it meant everything was starting over. I felt like I was in Groundhog Day where you would do everything the same day every day. And now I love Mondays. Like I'm like, bring on Monday. Like I love doing the work that I do. And so when I sit down to do work, it's no longer a feeling of dread, but one of like, this is so fun. I'm getting paid to do this. And then the biggest challenge has been like probably navigating things with a toddler because he calls his own shots. He doesn't follow my schedule. So he calls his own shots, but like if I'm saying, hey, you know, it's nap time, well, he's not like, yeah, it's nap time. Let's do
it. What? My kids do that? No, just do that.
Probably been the biggest challenge is trying
so
to
motherhood. Yeah. That is amazing. Okay, so I can relate to that groundhog feeling. Stephanie says, Carlin said, I'm going to the beach in July and can't wait to have my work backdrop be actual palm trees instead of just my desk background. Absolutely. That's amazing. Okay, so is there anything you wish you would have known before you started all of this? Or like if you could go back and tell yourself something before you started all of this, like what would you tell yourself? AKA all of these people watching you right now.
That don't get frustrated, don't give up. Like it's okay to feel overwhelmed because it is overwhelming. For some of us, maybe probably most of us, we're learning entirely new skills that we've never known. Some of you ladies are already have done this, have backgrounds in it, but for me, like I didn't know any of this. And so just to give yourself grace, be gentle with yourself. Like there is going to be a learning curve, but to not give up. Like I said, I was so depressed and I just felt like, is this ever going to end? And I think that's why I fought so hard to, make it happen. But, it didn't come without many nights of tears and many nights of frustration. And so if I could go back to myself at that moment in time and just tell myself, like, you are going to be in a much better place in a few months, like, chin up, you can do this. Don't give up.
That's amazing. So is there anything else you want to say about the Free Mama life, the Free Mama movement, the coaching group? You are still in the coaching group, which I love. I mean, I hope you never leave because I'd like to talk to you. But like, what do you feel like you've gained from the community, I guess?
The community, I mean, I can't begin to speak enough to the friendships that I've built. Like I mentioned, I was just talking to Jordan last night. I highly recommend the coaching group because there were days when I was in a total funk and I'd log on and you would speak so much truth. I remember listening to Jordan and listening to her already have her clients and like, okay, like if she can do this, I can do this too. Like she's doing this, like you can do it. So I highly recommend the private coaching because it did give me that weekly base point, that weekly grounding point almost of like that meeting with people and having that community. I highly recommend that. I don't know. I feel like people probably think like I drink your Kool-Aid. Like, I'm so fired up about the Free Mama. I have some friends in this group, personal friends, and I've shared my story on my Facebook. I can't speak highly enough about freelancing, about the freedom that it's brought me. My husband cannot believe that I'm doing what I do. And it's so funny because he gets very impatient when I'm on my phone. But like, since he's been home, I'm like, are you annoyed I'm on my computer? And he's like, no, babe, like, I know you're working. And so like, it's just been, yeah, exactly. He knows I'm bringing the dollars home, but he jokes all the time about like, oh, as soon as I quit the Navy, I'm going to be a stay-at-home dad. This one's bringing the bucks in. So
he can be a free daddy.
So it's just been, it's been awesome. Overall, amazing. I can't say highly enough.
So where's your business at now?
I have 3 clients, and I would like a 4th client. I think, and I talked to you about this when we met in person. I think my biggest struggle now is like, because I have my ideal clients, because I'm working with people that I truly enjoy, now I'm like kind of being more selective about like, okay, I don't want to get just anyone. Like, I want the next client I land to be like, I want to love to do their work just as much as I do my other clients' work. So I'm kind of at the point where my husband isn't even pressuring me to get another. He never pressured me to get another client, but we'd always talk about, well, when you get another client, when you get another client. And so now that word hasn't even happened since I landed my 3rd client on retainer. So I'm just in a really good place of balancing 3 clients. It's not too much work. I would say I'm working like not totally full time. I'm like 3/4 time working, and I'm really happy with where I'm at. I'm really happy with where I am financially. I may raise my prices in a few months because now I have a lot more experience. So that's probably going to be my next step.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, I was going to say what's next for you, but sounds like you've already got a pretty good plan laid out. So I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. I'm so just honored to know you and have been able to watch you. And I cannot wait to see you just like conquer whatever is next. I think it's amazing.
Thank you.
So, all right. Any last words for everybody?
Oh, any last words?
Yeah.
Last words. Like I said earlier, mamas, don't give up. This is real. Lauren's real. She is honestly one of the most genuine persons you'll ever meet. I mean, who does an Instagram live while they're planking? Lauren. So you won't meet someone more real than her, someone who is so willing to give her the knowledge that she knows, give you the knowledge that she knows. So glean all that you can from her. Take everything she says with the knowledge that she's been doing this a long time. And don't give up. Don't give up. Whatever hiccup is happening, it's a learning curve. It's preparing you. I just listened to a podcast by Jenna Kutcher with someone who started their business.
I knew you were going to get to her in this interview.
I'm obsessed with the Gold Digger podcast. But she was interviewing someone who invested $10,000 into her business, and the person took the money and she never heard from them again. So you guys, this woman still created at 19, still created a multi-million-dollar company after literally giving away $10,000 into thin air. So whatever hiccup you're going to can get through it. It's just a curve on your journey.
That's amazing. Okay. I did see a question came through. You want to answer it really fast or are you done?
No.
Okay. We're going to take question. Okay. So send your questions through. I don't know if, I can only see the last 4 posts, guys, for some reason. I'm not sure, but I see Jill is asking, I think she came on a little bit later. She asked where you found your clients and were they people that you knew, that you already knew?
So no, they were not people that I already knew. My first client was through an introduction with Lauren. My second client was actually a referral from Facebook.
She was asking on Facebook for a person.
A VA. And that was actually super amazing timing too, because when I had my meeting with her, she was like, so how do you know so-and-so? And I was like, I don't know so-and-so. She's like, oh, I signed up for this VA program and I thought you were the one he sent to me. And I was like, no, I just saw that you were looking for a VA. And so I messaged you. And like Lauren says, I brought that value. I told her all these things, I could see she needed help with and da-da-da. So that was how I met my second client. She's a photographer. My first client is a business coach. And then my third client was a referral from my business coach. And she is a philanthropic professional. She's a fundraising professional.
Awesome.
I did not know them.
You didn't know them. And you don't live in the same place as any of them, do you?
No, well, my photographer client lives up in Leucadia, which is about 45 minutes away.
Oh, and you actually met. Did you meet?
I've met two of my clients. I met my first and my second client because my first client is from Houston, where I'm originally from. And then my second client is up here. And she's a photographer. She does boudoir shoots. So I did a boudoir shoot with her.
And fun fact, everyone, when my family went to go meet Mia, when Mia came to Houston, my daughter found the photos on her phone.
Gosh, yes.
You remember that? Good times. Good times. See, we can't make this stuff up as mothers. So, okay. Brooke says, how many potential clients did you go through prior to signing your first contract?
Actually, my first client was my first potential client.
When did the guy come in?
He came in, I launched my website and I sent it to my sister, and my sister sent it to him. So it's kind of funny because my website's like pink and gold, and so he's like very, not masculine, but it's obviously not, I don't know. I just thought it was funny that he website. But he was, I wouldn't even say he was a first potential client just because he kind of wasn't even on my radar. So my first real, let me backtrack. I did have one more. I found her in a VA group, and she said she needed help with social media, and I sent her a proposal, and it was too much for her. And so I told her, it was my first client. So I was like, okay, well, kind of tell me where your budget is. And that was one thing I learned from Lauren. It's so good to have in your first conversation. Tell me what your budget is. Tell me what you're looking at, because that way you know where they're operating from. But with her, I remember emailing her back and saying, hey, we can talk about it. And she never responded. And then shortly after, I had Myra. And really, I wasn't being, I wasn't trying to be too picky. I just wanted to get that first client. And I'm glad I did, because that's what I needed to give me that momentum. Totally. But then there have been several. I had an old colleague message me, and he runs like 3 restaurants, and he asked me I could use your services. So, I've had a couple of people that I'm just like, no, you're not the right fit for me. Yeah.
Jordan's giving you all kinds of love, so you can go back and respond to her later. All right, guys, any other quick questions coming through? I'm sorry if I missed some. For some reason, it's only showing me the last 4 posts, so I think we got Brooke's question. Yeah, so Mia, I will tag you in this, so if you don't mind, just if anybody has any other questions, I know that you always participate and give and offer feedback and advice, and I know that the free mamas who are right behind you will hopefully then pay it forward to the next round of people. So thank you for taking time out of your day to chat with me and to chat with all of these lovely ladies who've been watching. I appreciate you so much, and I am just so proud of you.
Thank you. It was an honor to be featured.
Yay. All right, girl, have a good day. And to all you free mamas, keep going. Don't give up. All right. Bye.